Have you ever looked at a $7 vanilla latte and wondered, what am I actually paying for? Is it the espresso, the oat milk, or the barista who drew a leaf in the foam? Partially, yes. But there's a secret ingredient in that cup that most people walk right past. It's a small, elegant bottle with a French name on it. And behind that bottle is a 100-year-old family empire that turned the most humble of products, sugar, water, and fruit, into a global business. That business now touches 165 countries and every serious cafe, bar, and hotel on the planet. Welcome to Business Undercurrent. Today, we're talking about Monin. Not tech, not AI, not crypto, but syrup. And the business mechanics behind it are sweeter than anything in the bottle. Let's go back to 1912, to a small town in central France called Bourges. Georges Monin wasn't a chemist or a food scientist, not even a trained chef. He came from a family of millers, people who worked with grain, not flavor. But Georges had an obsession that his profession couldn't contain. He wanted to capture the exact, irreducible taste of fresh fruit and lock it in a bottle. He wasn't looking for an approximation or a chemical shortcut. He wanted the real thing. It took him until the 1920s to perfect his first commercial syrups. He wasn't in a rush, and he wasn't chasing a market, he was chasing a standard. That distinction, between chasing a market and chasing a standard, is the entire DNA of this company. Every generation that followed inherited not just a recipe book, but a philosophy. If it doesn't feel right, go back to work. That's not a business strategy, that's a craft ethic. And craft ethics, it turns out, scale beautifully. For decades, Monin survived quietly through 2 world wars, occupation, and economic crashes. These were the kind of headwinds that killed thousands of small French businesses. Monin endured because they never over-leveraged, never chased volume at the cost of quality, and never stopped being a family business in the truest sense. Then came the 1990s. The specialty coffee boom hit the Western world like a freight train. Suddenly, every cafe wanted flavored lattes, vanilla cappuccinos, and hazelnut mochas. Demand for Monin syrups exploded so fast that shipping from Bourges wasn't enough. Enter Olivier Monin, the 3rd generation, who had taken the reins in 1993. He made a decision that changed everything. In 1995, they committed to America. By January 1996, their first U.S. factory was running in Clearwater, Florida. But here's what made it more than just an expansion. Olivier reframed the entire business model. He stopped thinking of Monin as a syrup company and started thinking of it as a solutions company. He said, "We are not selling the product, but the solution." That single mental shift, from product to solution, is what separates a commodity from a brand. Now, how do you protect a premium syrup empire from cheaper competitors? Because make no mistake, the market is crowded. Tarani, Da Vinci, and dozens of private label brands are all fighting for shelf space at a lower price point. Monin's answer is vertical integration so deep it borders on obsessive. Today, 98% of their products are made with 100% natural ingredients, with no artificial flavors or preservatives. That sounds like a marketing line, until you understand what it costs to actually deliver it. When Olivier noticed that yuzu production in South Korea, which supplies 80% of the world's yuzu, was declining, he didn't call a new supplier. He planted his own yuzu farm in Europe. When vanilla prices became volatile, Monin bought land in Madagascar, the source of 80% of the global supply. They hired 80 locals and even built a school classroom for the community. They didn't just secure their supply chain, they built a moat around their quality. And that moat is almost impossible to replicate without a century of patience and a family's conviction. If you're finding this kind of deep dive valuable, this is exactly what Business Undercurrent does every week. We pull back the curtain on the hidden mechanics of the world's most interesting businesses. Hit subscribe, you won't want to miss what's coming next. The biggest threat to a syrup company in 2025 isn't a competitor, it's a trend. The global war on sugar is real. In fact, 45% of new beverage product launches in 2023 were low-calorie or sugar-free. A lesser company would panic, but Monin pivoted. They launched True Flavor, a premium unsweetened flavor range with 15 clean label profiles, from hibiscus to mushroom and even pickle. Yes, pickle, because the market asked for it. They're also capitalizing on the spicy trend, a mix of sweet and spicy, with hot honey and chili-forward syrups. And here's the thing that makes all of this remarkable. In 1912, a Monin recipe had 3 to 5 ingredients. Today, it has 15 to 25. And instead of taking days to develop, a new flavor takes months. This is because they refuse to use preservatives, so every recipe must be naturally stable. That is a 100-year-old company operating with the discipline of a startup and the patience of a dynasty. The lesson of Monin isn't about syrups. It's about what happens when you refuse to compromise on craft across generations, build a supply chain that no one can easily replicate, and understand that the real product you're selling is never the thing in the bottle. It's the trust, the expertise, and the story behind it. That's the billion-dollar drop.